Anyway, I just wanted to start out by talking about something. How many people here are actually paying attention to the U.S. election? Put up your hands. Okay, now, for how many of those people is this a major obsession? Well, it is for me, I got to admit. And there's some themes there that I want to bring up that relate somewhat to what I'm going to be talking about this morning. But I guess the first thing I want to say is that, at least for me, I mean, as you can see, I'm a pretty old guy, so I can, there were some big dates in the history of the U.S. that, I still kind of remember where I was when they happened. Kennedy assassination, 9/11. And I kind of think today is going to be a day like that for a lot of people. But for a change, it has the potential to be a good news day instead of a bad news day. And I think one of the things that it represents, again, coming back to the themes I'll be talking about this morning, is that certainly, the likely winning campaign, the Obama campaign, and even to some extent the McCain campaign, represents a new kind of recognition of complexity. That simple-minded solutions, simple-minded ways of thinking about how things work, they don't work. They have never worked, and we've tried to apply those, over the past 10, 15, 20 years in the way we've governed our societies. And lo and behold, we're kind of in a big mess right now. And what you're seeing from these candidates is a much more, and again, I think more so from Obama than McCain, a much more nuanced perspective about complexity and about how the problems are just not that simple, and we're not going to turn things around overnight. And that's pretty relevant to what I'm going to be talking about this morning. But the other thing I want to say is that a lot of commentators are talking about the fact that the way that this campaign has been run has been itself a kind of a revolutionary approach and a very, very reflective of our times. The use of ICTs, information communications technologies, the internet as a massive mobilizing force for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. The Obama campaign website was actually designed by a founder of Facebook, and it's got all kinds of social networking. You can go on there, if you're an American citizen, and you can obviously make donations, but you can blog, you can network with other people, you can get people, you can get advice on how to campaign in your neighborhood, you can form little groups and go off and do things with them, and so on and so forth. So the power of collaboration and enabled by information technologies is really at the center of a lot of what this campaign is about, and it's many commentators attribute that power to one of the reasons why we're likely to see an unprecedented level of voting in today's election. But to me, there's another part to this, because the other thing that the commentators are saying, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday morning when I was running on the treadmill of some commentators, and one guy this fellow is a journalist who has followed 15 or 20 campaigns during the course of his journalistic career in the United States. Federal, state, city elections in places like New York City. And his comment had nothing to do with what I just said. His comment was, this was the most disciplined campaign that he's ever been part of. It's been run from the top. There's never been a single leak. Every step of the campaign has been thought through. They had an agenda of how this campaign was going to work from 1 month to the next. They followed it to a T, and he's never seen anything like it. So think about that. On the one hand, we've got this collaborative world, and we all know what the collaborative world is like out there. Go to YouTube or MySpace or Facebook or whatever, and there's not a lot of discipline there. And on the other hand, there's this profound discipline which is somehow managing to get all those people who are being mobilized to when they pick up the phone and they call someone to say, okay, you go out and vote, and the person says, well, you know, they ask them some questions, those people follow the script. So somehow this campaign has found a way to combine incredible discipline, if you like, good old-fashioned command control, with this kind of new, innovative, collaborative, spontaneous, self-organizing way of operating. And in a way, it encapsulates a very different way of thinking about how these technologies change the way that we operate and how we can operate, not only in politics, but in our businesses and our daily lives, and how we harness them to achieve the things we need to achieve. And again, this comes back to the point about complexity. You know, there are a lot of people out there who argue that, you know, mass collaboration changes everything. It's the way of the future. We got to be doing it everywhere and in everything that we do in our lives, and it's going to just transform things. And you know what? Whether we like it or not, all those people out there are going to organize themselves, self-organize themselves, and change the way we do our business, whether we're in government or in corporations or what have you. Well, sorry, I look around me at the world and I don't see that happening. It's happening in some places and in some ways, but on the whole, that's not the way things are working, and it's unlikely that they're going to change to the extent that some people argue. Which is not to say that mass collaboration is bad. It's good. It's not to say that these collaborative tools and techniques can't be useful in the things that we do in our organizations. Yes, we can. And it's critical that we understand how to use them, because they do help us be more productive, have better relationships with our clients and customers, you know, a whole host of reasons, better innovators, enable us to compete in more innovative ways. But there are also, the old ways of doing things are also still true. And what's interesting about the old ways of doing things, you know, the structured business models that are planned and managed with forethought, they're also changing. And they're also changing because of a lot of the same forces that are driving the rise of collaboration technologies and collaborative business models. And what we really need to understand as business leaders is what are all those choices? How do they all fit together? When do we make the right choice? How do we make the right choices about what to do and when? How do we manage those alternatives for success? And what are the risks, and how do we mitigate the risks?